Hello, my fellow investors. This video I'm going to explain how do I conduct my research on a company once I found a company that I find interesting and it's worthwhile to check into it. What's my next step in the process of doing research on the company? So my first thing I would want to do, I have my spreadsheet that I fill with data, financial data. So basically what I do in the first step is I want to put in the financial data from 20 years ago. I just put in a single year, 2002, and then I'll jump for the next 10 years and I'll put in the entire data of the next 10 years. So in my spreadsheet I have your revenue, cost of revenue, gross margin, all these different data that I want to put in, operating cash flow, capital expenditures, free cash flow, depreciation, inventory, assets. I put in all these different data. Then I have in the bottom afterwards, I have all these ratios that automatically are calculated, how much time the company earned its earnings, the current ratio, the quick ratio. This is a whole subject by itself, all these ratios, all these different data. I fill in all this, how much shares are outstanding, the earnings per share, book value, and everything. So I'll put in the data of 20 years ago, and then I'll jump 10 years, and I'll do the next data for the next 10 years. This usually, the process takes a few hours. This is my first step. Then over here in the end, I have here the compound annual growth. Automatically, I know what was the compound annual growth for the last 10 years, from 2012 to 2021, and the last 20 years, and 15 years. So this is what I do. This is my first step. It's automatically, everything is calculated. How much was the revenue, the growth, how much was the net revenue, the operating margins, the assets, everything is automatically calculated. So how do I do this? So my first step, let's say I found a company. This is a company that I'm doing research on right now, NVR. It's a construction company. So I'll go in to the SEC. I'll go for the last 10Ks. I'll do here 10Ks. Okay, so I open up the 10Ks the last 20 years. What I do is I go like this. I go right away. I don't even read anything. Just go straight to the financial data, and it'll take me a few hours. I'll start putting in all the information. A lot of times, in the middle of my spreadsheet, I have, you see over here, it's how many companies already went through. There's only one sheet. A lot of times, after a few years, I say, no, I like this company. That's it. I stop in the middle. But if I fill out the whole data and it seems interesting, my next step would be to fill out the data of the last 20 years. So let's say over here in Thor. I'll do from 2002, but I'll fill in all the years, 2003, 2004, and I'll fill in everything. So I added on an extra data for the last 10 years before, the prior decade. And my CAGRs are much more sophisticated. So I'll do the last 10 years like before, the last 20 years, and then I'll do full of averages of 15 years. I'll do, so let's over here 15. So how much is the CAGR from 2002 to 2016? How much is the 15-year growth from 2003 to 2017, and so on? And then I'll do an average of all the 15, all these numbers together. So this will give me a pretty much accurate how much is the average growth. So 10 years isn't so exact. Maybe exactly the first year was very low or the last year was very high. In 15 years, you're doing a lot of 15 years. It'll give you a much more accurate. Of course, this isn't anything scientific. It's just you have to use your head. But this is just like a first glimpse. Okay, so once I filled in all the data, I really liked what I see, and I think this company is very interesting and it's worthwhile. It's worth starting to do the research on it. What's my next step? Now, if you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button and to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. So this is actually very interesting. Well, most investors do, they'll start reading 10Ks. They'll start reading all the 10Ks, the company's business, what do they do, how do they do all the things. That's the classic way investors conduct the research. Now, anyone who is already experienced investor, already doing this for a lot of years, everyone is wired differently. Everyone works the way he's used to, the way he likes to work. So whatever's good for you, do it. I actually have a different approach, a little bit of a different approach, and I think it's much better. And I also think for the younger generation that there's a lot of people who have problems in ADHD, or they have a problem reading, or not to have such a problem, but I know there's a lot of people, especially the younger generation, they're used to social media, they're used to computers, they're not used to reading so much. For them to sit down and read for hours upon hours is very hard. So I have a different approach, which I think is not only very well suited for the younger generation, I think it's even a better approach. So what I'll do is, before I even start reading any 10K, sometimes I'll just to know what the company is doing, basically. I'll know that already from going in through the numbers. over the last 20 years, you'll get a pretty good indication what the company does. But sometimes I'll just read the first item is the business item, what the company does. I'll just glimpse through it. But mainly my first step isn't reading the 10Ks. What I do is, so let's say Texas Roadhouse. I did for a few weeks. I was doing a lot of research on Texas Roadhouse. I really like this company. I want to make an entire series on this company. For a few weeks, I did a lot of research on this company. So my first step was going like this. I'll just go onto YouTube and start searching all different kind of things on this company. Not all companies it can be done, but in this specific thing, Texas Roadhouse, it's a big restaurant chain. You could start. So I'll look for all these different kind of videos. Now I don't care so much about the video. The video is some one person with whatever he thinks about in this case it's the food or the service, whatever it is. That's one person's. It might be objective, it might be subjective. I don't know. Maybe he's getting paid for doing this video. I have no idea. One person isn't a true review. But what I like to do is I start reading the comments. So let's say this video has 1,500 comments, and you start reading and reading comments. So let's say Peter Lynch said that he invested in Chrysler when he heard something from someone saying something about the company's cars. You can't read reviews on Yelp or anything like that. It's not going to give you a very good indication. But if you read not thousands, but tens of thousands of comments and likes, and I literally went through tons and tons and tons of videos, and not only about Texas Roadhouse, I went through videos about, 10, 15 different restaurant chains, and I read literally tens of thousands of comments. And that's how you start to get a feel of what's the uniqueness for each company, what is the difference. So this, you can't always use this for different kinds of companies, but let's say in the example of Texas Roadhouse, which everyone goes to restaurants and everyone goes to different kinds of restaurants, you'll get a lot of information, and you'll start getting to understand what's a company's competitive advantage, what's its moat, what thing is a better, and what thing is a worse, its service, its food, whatever it is. It's just a great way to understand the entire industry, to understand all the competitors before you even did any research on how the company operates. You'll get a very, very good understanding on the entire industry, all the competitors, what's the company's moat and its uniqueness. So let's say in the case of NVR, right? I said over here that I was looking at a company called NVR. It's a big company, a home builder, a construction company. So I didn't even open up any 10Ks. I didn't read any 10Ks. But what I'll do is I'll go to YouTube and I'll start searching how do home builders earn money. And I'll just start going through videos and comments. And I'll put all different kinds of searches. How do construction companies earn money? How to open a construction company? And I'll start getting an entire feel of the company, of the industry, and you'll get all kinds of different information. So this is great. And then what I'll do is the next step is I'll do like this. Once I'm starting to build up my information on a market, on an industry, on a company, so I'll start filling in questions. So let's say in the case of NVR, so let's say I found data or find different things on the 10Ks. Oh, this already, I'm already, in the case of NVR, I already started reading the 10Ks, so I already put in more information. So I'll start to understand the industry and the company, so I'll start asking questions. How does the company monetize its projects? How does the company earn money? Whatever. I'll fill in all kinds of different questions. And why do I do this? The reason why I do this is when you need to understand about companies' annual reports, a company will always want to give you a good picture of itself. It will never tell you bad things. It's not about lying or fraud. Every company wants the investors to believe that they have a good company. If they could take out bad data, they'll do it. Let's say I was doing research on SWA. I made a entire video why I'm not interested in Smith & Wesson. And for some reason, there was a span of a few years where they stopped reporting how many units they sold each year. I don't know why they stopped, but for entire years they did it, and then all of a sudden they stopped. It's also Thor Industries. Going through the data for the past 20 years. In the beginning, in the first years, every time they acquired a new company, and the next year or two, they would put in their reports how much did they earn, the net revenue from the new acquisition. And then in some year, they stopped doing it. I don't know why they stopped doing it. Whatever it is, there's a reason. Maybe it wasn't a reason why they stopped doing it, but they stopped doing it. So there's tons of data you wouldn't find in the 10Ks. But if you're trying to go into a new industry or to a new company which you never did research on it, you don't want just to start researching the company through the 10Ks, because there's so much things you don't know. There's so much things you don't know about the company, about the industry, tons of different data. In my research on construction companies, I'll do research on how many new buildings were built in the past 10, 20, 30 years. I don't care about the company yet. I just want to know the industry. And then when I start reading the 10Ks, automatically full of questions will jump up, and or some things will get answered. Right away, I'll be looking at things in a totally different perspective, in a much wider perspective. I have much more knowledge, and when I'll see what the company is writing, I'll say, okay, so why did they do this? Why did they do that? It's totally different when you're starting to research a company when you know the things than when you don't know it. So let's say someone like Buffett, who's been investing for decades upon decades, he doesn't need to do what I'm doing because he has already so much knowledge. And if he, let's say, he knows the banks industry, he doesn't need to do all this research before he's looking at the bank. He really knows so much. He could read the 10Ks and have everything what he needs. But for younger investors, or even for older investors, I'm saying this is a great approach to do research on companies. You try it out one time and you see how amazing it is. If you've already been doing investing for decades and you know whatever you're investing in, you know the industry is something. But if you haven't been doing this, if you're investing for years but you aren't so much a value investor and now you want to go get more into value investing, I think it's a very great idea to do research on the industry and on the company and before you even start reading a 10K. Just fill up as much knowledge as you can about the industry, about the company, before you start reading the 10Ks. Now, after I filled up my my head with full of knowledge about the company and the industry, well, the most important thing is to try to evaluate. This I think this is a major thing that a lot of value investors miss out. They see a good company, they see maybe even a great company, and they see it's a good price and everything. Okay, they know all these things. If you take in a spreadsheet, yeah, you could put inside all the data. You could calculate how good a company is, how great a company is. I think one of the most main things that a lot of value investors miss out is that they don't calculate in their head how much money they're going to earn, how much money they're predicting to earn in the next 10, 20 years. So people do DCF valuations. Oh, okay, it's just a funny way of making believe as if you know what's going to be the future. You need to really think not just by the numbers, not just by analyzing numbers. You need to understand the industry, understand the company, and there's so much things. It's so hard to explain these different things. Everyone is wired differently, but you really have to put yourself inside the company's inside the company's. I'm not exactly how to express myself. As if you're the owner of the company, and think to yourself, what's going to be the next 20 years? Figure out what's the overhead of the company. It's so many different things you can figure out. Try to figure out in your head what is the company going to do in the next 10, 20 years because of the company, because of the industry, because of competitors, because of the economy, because of a lot of different things. I think this is the most important thing that value investors need to do. After they figure out all the past numbers, they have all the data in their head, they understand the company, they understand the industry, try to figure out what the company is going to do in the next 10, 20 years. And not by analyzing data, but just to figure out in your head what the company is going to look like in 10, 20 years. For all the things you know about the industry, about the company, about everything else. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Now, if you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button and to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.